just like to review this again, this point we made. We find that Avraham's hospitality, in terms of what it produced, how it impacted on the destiny of Klal Yisrael, every aspect of that hospitality activated dynamics, which we are what we are because of those dynamics. He ran towards them. He asked them to rest under the shade of the tree, offered water, the bread, and everything which had to do with that hospitality. And the Midrash, the Gemara tells us, we had the Anei HaKavod, we had the Well of Miriam, we have the mitzvah of Sukkah, the manna in the desert. The Torah the Torah was given to those who ate the manna. And the Gemara in Yuma cites a posuk that David HaMelech refers to the manna as lechem abirim. Lechem abirim is the bread of the abirim. It's the sustenance which Malochim are actually sustained by HaKadosh Baruch Hu. The manna was spiritual food. It spiritualized the Jews. They gave them a capacity to be able to comprehend Torah at a level which is beyond human capacity. And why did we have the manna? Because Avraham Avinu said, Echo pas lechem. Avram, the three calves, what he fed them, it all had this phenomenal, eternal impact on our whole destiny, our capacity, our potential. So we explained that because Avraham Avinu, if the angels would have come in angel form, because as we read this week's parsha, what was the purpose of three angels? One came to heal Avraham, that was Raphael. One came to inform Sara that she was going to have a child. And the third one came that to go destroy Sodom. And the one who healed Avraham saved Lot from Sodom. If they would have come as angels, Avraham wouldn't have offered him anything. It's only because Avraham, as Rashi cites, was mitztayer. He was pained that Orchim were not coming. He had no one to host. Therefore, he actualized his hospitality in these various levels. And the fruits of that hospitality is something which is eternal, which changed the destiny of Klal Yisrael. So we explained what was his pain. His pain was chillul Hashem, because he felt that if no wayfarers come, because of the heat of the day, that means every moment that a person doesn't enter into his tent, that person believes that the deities are the ones who actually cause existence to exist. It's not Hashem. So that's chillul Hashem. So he's pained that he's not able to convert people to monotheism, to understand what the source of everything is. So what are the fruits of chillul Hashem, of being paid for chillul Hashem? Being paid for chillul Hashem, these are the fruits. As we said, the Anei HaKavod, the bear, Shel Miriam, the man, the Korban Pesach, Kabbalas Torah, all that, those are expressions or results of Kiddush Hashem. So if a person is paying for Kavod Shemayim in our lives, we see things and we're pained by them, and we take action to try to minimize the chillul Hashem for whatever reason, in whatever way. Even if we don't succeed, does make a difference. The action itself, that we take action because we're pained, Hashem says, if you're pained for me, that means you no longer function within the capacity of an ordinary human being. You're functioning as my dedicated subject, my dedicated servant. And if that's the case, the world is before you, and we have that special relationship. That's the takeaway. We have to take away from this for ourselves. We're holding Posuk Yud Ches, Posuk Yud, Perek Yud Ches, 18, chapter number 10. Yom HaShov Oshuv Eilecho Keis Chayo. The one angel said to him, I will return to you next year at this moment. Vini ben Sarishtecho. And Sara, your wife, will have a son. The Sara Shomasa Pesach Oil V'Achrov. And Sara overhears this conversation. Pesach oil at the entrance of the tent V'Achrov. The entrance was behind the angel. That means Sara man was standing behind the angel, and she overheard this conversation. Now it's interesting. You'll see in a moment. Until this moment, Sara was not aware she was going to have a child. In last week's parasha, Hashem says to Avraham, you will no longer be called Avraham, you can be called Avraham. And we explained that was due to the circumcision. And your wife will no longer be called Sarai, should be called Sara. At this moment, was Sara at this moment aware that she was going to have the name change? Seemingly not. Because if she would have known, she would have realized she would have a child, because the name change came about due that she was going to conceive from Avraham Avinu. As he had the name change, due to the Milah, she also had a name change, because she was going to become the matriarch to conceive that child that's going to be the future patriarch. But yet the Torah refers to the beginning of the parsha, she's referred to as Sara. Sara Shomas. But Yitzchak, Sara Bikirba, Sara was skeptical. So even though the Torah is referred to as Sara, but since Hashem already had said to Avraham Avinu that her name is Sara, evidently she wasn't aware of it. But in her own mind, she's still Sarai. That's the point I'm making. Avram, the Sarah's came born by Yomi. Avram and Sara, they were old, advanced in years. Sara ceased to have the way of women, meaning she was beyond menopause. That means she was beyond a level, the ability to conceive. Rashi, Lios Posuk Bimena Orach Kanoshim Orach Nidus, meaning menstruation. Vatitzach Sara Bikir Balemor. Sara chuckled in her innards, saying, after I've withered, am I going to regain my suppleness? Adonis, okay. And secondly, even if it may be possible, but my husband's old. So therefore, it's like a double miracle here. Let's see. Bikirbo bistalekes b'mei v'omro efshe akravayim halolu tunin vlad. She looked at her innards. She said, my womb could actually carry a child. Shadam lo shetzomko, my breast that dried up. Moshe cholov, they're going to produce milk. I'm going to lactate. Edno tzictzur boser v'loshen nishna. Okay, Dovarach loshen idun zman veses. Nidus. Time. Idun means the time that I'm going to regain my menstrual cycle. So she said two things. I've passed menopause. In addition, Adonis Zoking. My master is Ozoking. I mean, is Avraham Sara Menu's master? She's not his master. Not only that, I mean, we said earlier that Sara in prophecy was a greater prophetess than Avraham was. Yet she's saying, Adonis okay. I mean, in her mind, my master is old. So I mean, it's interesting. Why is she referring to at this moment, Adonis okay? My master is old. Hashem said, Avraham, why did she laugh? Why was she skeptical? And she said, is it possible that I will conceive when I'm old? Is anything beyond God's ability? At this time, I return to you at this moment. Sara will have that son. Rashi, over here, she said Adon is okay. But Hashem said to Avraham when he was sharing with him what Sara had said, she said she's old. She's too old to have a child. Hashem altered it, not to share what she actually said because of Nea Shalom. It can disrupt the peace in the house. So I always ask the question. I mean, Avraham and Sara, and she's a prophetess, he's a prophet. Hu Megayah Anoshim, he Megayah says Anoshim. They're involved in outreach, one of a kind. She's been through thick and thin. She saw miracles when she was in Egypt with Paro. Her husband went in the Kivshan Eish, came out of Kivshan Eish. Do you think in any way, by hearing what Sara had said, do you think that this is going to minimize or somehow affect or undermine the shalom bias? It's going to hurt the relationship between Sara and Avraham. So what we always used to say was this, people make comments and they make the comment and they think it's a cute comment or it's witty about somebody else's relation with his wife. And they figure it's a inane comment, it's an innocent comment, but you never know to what degree it could affect that relationship. Because nobody knows what's going on behind closed doors in somebody else's relationship. You never know what could touch anybody. So the takeaway from Avraham, we're not worried about Avraham's shalom bias. This was intact, it was unshakable. But if Hashem was Mishane for shalom, by Avraham and Sara, so by anyone else, which definitely that is not necessarily the nature of the relationship, since you never know what's going on, you never know to what degree you could actually rattle that relationship. That's what we always said. Okay? But okay, it's not the best answer. So I'll put it out to you. What do you think? Hashem was Mishane. Find that, and the Rishonim explained this, that when Sara Menu years later, she sees that Yishmael's mitzachik. And Rashi of this, what's mitzachik? It's alluding, there were certain indications that he had relevance to idolatry, or to adultery, or to certain things which were, or to murder. And she felt that it could be a negative influence on Yitzchak, and Yitzchak would never develop to be the patriarch. So she comes to Avraham Avinu and says to him, drive out this maidservant, which is Hagar, and her son from your home. Yishmael at that point was beloved to Avraham Avinu. And Hashem says to Avraham, Kol Hashem, whatever Sara says to you, you should heed her voice. Meaning prophetically, she's a greater prophet than you, send them off. So how would you send them off? He's the beloved son. Hagar, he has a very special relationship with her. And she's a tzadikis. He sends them off with pas lechem, a loaf of bread, and a flask of water. And they're going to a desert. You'd say, you have to send them off. You give them every provision which will secure their safety in a location where there's no provision. They're going to a desert. And they nearly die. Yishmael nearly dies, and miraculously, he's saved. I mean, is that the way you treat your son? You're sending him off in either case. Send them off, that it should be in a more secure situation. So Rashi over this cites Chazal, that when he heard that his son had relevance to idolatry, adultery, and murder, he saw Ishmael in a total different light. And therefore, the feelings of father-son, the warm feelings were gone. He sent him off with the minimum. Of course, he didn't think he would be in a position of danger, but it's only because Sara gave an ayin hora to Ishmael, so he had to drink more, therefore the water wasn't sufficient. But still, it impacted on his whole perception of his son. The love totally dissipated, because he heard what his son did, and Hashem says Shema b'kola, and Hashem confirmed it. It's true. Her reading, her evaluation of the Ishmael was correct. When he heard that, he took on a negative feeling towards his son. Now, what Sara Menu said, Adoni Zokain, what does that say? In her mind, when Avraham heard he was going to have a son, it says Yitzchak. It evoked joy in him. Here, it was skepticism. You understand? If she's the matriarch, and the child's been born from this woman, and she has a deficiency in her belief, that could minimize the relationship. That could minimize it. When she attributed Adoni's okay, she said, my husband is old. Therefore, he can't father that child. I can't conceive from him. But Hashem promised Avraham Avinu, you can have children, and the child wasn't from Hagar. That means she questioned what Hashem had said. So this is already touching upon what? Touching upon what Hashem said to Avraham. If she says, I am old, maybe there's going to be another woman he's going to father that child from, to be the future patriarch. But she said, Adoni's okay. Avraham is not able to have the child. How could you say Avraham can't have the child if actually Hashem promised him he's going to have a child? And he's the future of the world. That means he's the patriarch. Yishmael is not the patriarch. Therefore, as a result of that, that could actually affect the shalom. That could affect the shalom bias.
So I have multiple questions on this, Rabbi.
Go ahead.
It affect the shalom bias because Avraham could question whether Sarah has the requisite faith in Hashem.
It's because it touches upon questioning God that Avraham will not be able to father a child. Her not being able is okay. There the claim is, how do you not believe? But it's Avraham. Hashem promised Avraham he's going to have that child. He's going to father that patriarch. So how could you even have any doubt to any degree? The answer is that's why Hashem. That's for the sake of shalom.
Okay.
That could affect their relationship.
How do we account for Sarah's deficiency with the, I guess, Masora, if I can use it, that the women always have more faith than the men do in the history of our people? He had a child at age 86. So it wasn't that long ago. He was an old man then.
13 years. 13 years. A lot happens in 13 years.
I hear you.
Evidently, he aged. He aged in 13 years. Right? Firstly, she said two things. I'm beyond menopause, and he's old. So when you have both that combination, even though an older man can, or even though he has sperm, but the motility of the sperm may not be enough to be able for the woman to conceive. So if the woman is fertile, okay, maybe it's enough. But if she has the deficiency, he has the deficiency, what I'm telling you is to show there between the two of them, it's not going to happen. Okay? So that's not such a question. But the first question is, women always have greater faith than the men. That's exactly what I'm saying. Where do we find it? In the merit of the righteous women, we were redeemed from Egypt. The men had no interest in procreation because they believe they're never leaving Egypt. They already gave up hope. The women said, we are. And they went out to the fields and did whatever they can to make themselves attractive to their husbands. And they cohabited in the fields and they had children. And that was the future generation. That was due to their unswerving faith in Hashem. They're leaving. They're going to leave. There Hashem had said, Klal Yisrael is leaving Egypt. For them to leave Egypt, you have to have, we spoke about that critical mass number, you have to have 600,000 males above the age of 20. Therefore, they have to do whatever they have to do because they're partners in that, to bring that about. Here, Hashem never said Sara is going to have a child. Hashem said Avram's going to have a child. So it has nothing to do with the faith. Anything Hashem says regarding themselves, that they have faith. Their faith is greater. They have greater clarity than the men. That's like a woman's intuition. But over here, this has nothing. It was never said she was going to have the child. He was going to have the son. And that's what I'm saying. And that's the reason why Hashem altered it by saying it's not Adoni's okay, Adi's counting. So the question is, but over here, she did say he's old. He's not able to do it. So over here, your question is good now. Here she knows exactly what was said. So if she says Adi's counting, okay, that's different than the women in Egypt. But if she knows that Hashem said that he's going to have the child, she shouldn't have questioned it.
But Rabbi, he doesn't.
Wait.
She doesn't know.
One second. So we had said that Sara Imenu left no stone unturned over here to be worthy of having a child. And she should be the one to be the matriarch, to be the mother of that child. And regardless of what she did, Hashem said no. So somehow she understood that Hashem said it's not going to happen. That caused the skepticism. Doesn't say she didn't believe. She was skeptic. She was skeptic about this, and that was the reason. It should have been, of course, it's going to happen. It's going to happen.
But wasn't she told that she was going to be the matriarch?
He said he's going to have a child that says he believed, and Hashem considered righteousness. Okay? So the Ramban asks, Avraham Avinu went into the kiln, came out of the kiln. And now Hashem says, although you're beyond the age to be able to father a child, you're going to have a child. It says he believed, and Hashem says that was righteousness. I mean, if you're a personal beneficiary of a miracle, of coming out of a kiln, when Hashem says you're going to be able to conceive, is that any less of a miracle? So why was it so special that he believed? That's the question the Ramban asks. So it says, so the Ramban explains the pasuk not to a simple reading. What it means by Yamein, he believed that it wasn't due to his own righteousness, but he felt it was Hashem's chesed why he was doing it. He wasn't attributing it to himself, but he was attributing to Hashem's chesed that he's having a child. It's not because he turned the world over and he's disseminating monotheism. That's not the reason. That's the way the Ramban learns. The Maharal of Prague says something very interesting. He says, what is a miracle? What is a miracle? A miracle is that certain things are set in nature, basically etched in stone, and despite that, something supernatural happens to cause the change to take place. He says like this, on the terrestrial level, there's always change. For instance, you have seasons. There's change. Things grow, they wither, they disappear. People are born, they age, and eventually they die. So the world itself is always in flux. There's always change. So what's miracle? Miracle is greater change. It's not a child becomes an adult, which is a transition of reality is change. It's even a greater. There's a greater change. That's miracle. Where do we find change in creation? That this continuous flux and change on the terrestrial level. On the celestial level, I mean, regarding the heavenly bodies, the moon, the sun, we don't see change. There's no change there. It's the same sun, it's the same moon, it's the same on the celestial level. Avraham Avinu was an expert astrologer. And Hashem says to Avraham, although you see in the stars that it says Avraham ein lo ben, you're not going to have a son. So if it's he sees it in the stars, the location he's seeing this, there's no change in that location. So that he came out of the kiln, that's a location that's on the terrestrial level. The change. So therefore, that has relevance to miracle. Miracle is a greater change. A supernatural change. But in a location where there is no change, and to say that despite that you can have a child, therefore was something extra special that he did believe. That's how the Maharal of Prague explains it. Why that was special, despite the fact that he already had come out of the kiln. Sara lemor. The word, it's a strong word. She responded with an untruth. I don't use the word she lied. Lo tzachakti. I did not laugh. I did not chuckle. Ki oreo. Because she was fearful. Vayom lo ki tzachot. He said, no, you did laugh. He was skeptical. He was skeptical. You know, sometimes a person on a conscious level, because of a certain shortcoming, you delude yourself. And you convince yourself it didn't happen. Avraham says it did happen. Rashi. Okay. There's a question over here which is asked by the Sepharno. He alludes to it. I mean, passing. If a woman becomes pregnant, does she have to be told? Time will tell. Why was it important for the Malachim to tell Sara Imenu she was going to have a child? If Hashem wants them to have a child, when she conceives and a certain point of the pregnancy, it reaches that point, she'll know she's pregnant. There'll be physical changes in her body. Why did she have to be told in advance, even before conception, that she's going to have a child? That's the question the Sepharno asks. We're talking about the future patriarch of the Jewish people. So this is preconception. Sara Imenu, a person has to pray or has to make certain changes in his life to prepare that you should be the so-called the receptacle or the conduit or the location for this soul to come about, who's going to be one of the most special neshamas coming into existence. Therefore, she had to do various things prior to the conception to be worthy and to merit to have that most advanced level of child. That's the reason why she had to be told in advance. It's not just tell her she's going to be pregnant. If she's going to be pregnant, that means she's the matriarch. If she's the matriarch, that means she's going to be the mother of the patriarch. Therefore, she'll pray, do many things in like you have prenatal in the physical sense. This is prenatal in the spiritual sense. That's the understanding. The men, they rose from that location and they gazed upon Sodom. And Avram is walking with them to accompany them. They're leaving. This is part of the hospitality. So Rashi, by Ashkifu, finish Rashi. Kol hashkafah shebimikra l'ro. Whenever the Torah uses the term hashkafah, it always means something very extremely negative. Chutz mi'ashkifa b'mon kochcha. Except we have in Dvarim, in Parshas Kisovo, after the Vidui Maser, the person gives it all the various tithes to the various parties, the Kohen, the Levi, the poor. We say Takar Hashkif Mon Kochcho, Uver Chasamcho Yisrael. You should gaze from the heavenly abode and bless the Jewish people. So over there, it also uses the term hashkafah. Gaze. Gaze is used normally in the context of something very negative, where it's going to be the attribute of justice is going to be applied. We're talking about they're going to destroy Sodom. And yet, this is literally the antithesis. It's in the most positive hashkafah. Now, why does Torah use that term? Hashkafah, mimon kochcha, regarding bracha. So what we had said was, in the past, what is gazing? It's an evaluation which is precise and exact. It's an exacting type of look. Midas adin means, normally Midas Avraham means, even though things are not perfect, it's okay. Hashem doesn't allow something to prosecute the record. But when you start ordering the record, and there's a precise, exacting evaluation, this is Midas adin. So whenever we find vayashkifu, there's a gazing, there's an exact evaluation, precise, that's the Midas adin. But yet, when it comes over there, regarding distribution of the tithes, also vayashkifu. So we explain like this: you pass somebody is in need, yeah, people need it in the community. Most times, most people, they gloss over it. They know it, but it doesn't make a difference. A person who intercedes and wants to make a difference in that person's life, what's the reason why he's making a difference in that person's life? Because he's seeing that person's predicament, he's seeing it with a preciseness, with an exactness, and because the way he's processing what he sees, therefore he's responding to alleviate that person's situation. So over there, we're talking about the distribution of tithes. The Levi doesn't have, the Kohen doesn't have, the poor doesn't have, the widow doesn't have, the orphan doesn't have. And you go, so what's motivating and precipitating all of a sudden the distribution of everything? Because I'm concerned for these people who don't have, and I want to somehow address their lack. But you only address the lack because it touches you. When you're touched, you address it. So just as you saw it, and because you saw it in that very clear situation, in that exacting, precise situation, and therefore you responded, Hashem will respond in the similar way to bring about bracha. That's the midah keneged midah, in the positive. That's how we explained it in the past. Therefore, normally vayashkifu means negative, a precise, exacting evaluation. That's midas adin. Here, it's the other way, because the person utilized that characteristic in the positive, Hashem uses it also in the positive.